Welcome everybody to NBL now as we sit on the court where possibly, now a lot of people will come out and argue, some of the traditionalists, the greatest NBL game, at least in my time. If Andrew Gaze is mentioning it, then that probably carries some weight as well. 113 to 112. All the superstars showed up. There was big moments, answer backs, bucket for bucket. It doesn't get better. It doesn't get better.
It really doesn't. And I'm not just talking about the NBL. That's the greatest game of basketball I've ever seen in my life. Across all different leagues that I've watched growing up, but because of the big shot making, the start that the Perth Wildcats got, Ian Clark in the first half, he finished with 38. Chris Golding, one of the toughest shot makers we'll potentially ever see. Jesse Wagstaff steps in, makes a three ball. It had absolutely everything. I never wanted it to end. You never want them to end on free throws either. I know you're big on that, Copes, but they ran the same play numerous times in the clutch this season. They had success on it, so well executed play, but both teams deserve a ton of credit because they just delivered something for the ages.
To score that amount of points in 40 minutes is amazing. And it wasn't because guys didn't play defense, because everyone out on the floor was trying to play defense. It was just the magnificent shooting and offensive prowess of these guys on the floor.
You know, I always judge games with the NBL, looking at it, before we really break this one down, just the gravity of how good that was to the fans in attendance. I brought 5 Irish mates that are all over Ireland, haven't been to the basketball floor. I just checked my phone to a message, I would die for Matthew Dellavedova. And they're talking about the Irish here. When they say that, they mean it.
I mean, again, everybody, you see it all online. That just captivated absolutely everybody. And this is why we love this league. We continue to see everything that it produces. But we saw it last year. We saw a Cinderella story. We saw some magic. And you think, how can you get one step further than that? We've already seen the best. Yeah. And yet here we are. We continue to go to a different level each and every season. And it's credit to everybody involved. But those players who battled it out, the superstars stood up, the big shots, the coaching. As you said, I never wanted it to end. So big shout out to everybody. Unless
you've been a player, you don't know what we're talking about. But look at this. Clark shoots 73%. Doolittle shoots 61%. Bender shoots 63%. And Chris Golding shoots 69% from the field when guys are trying to stop those 4 players.
And you can easily put that down and say, hey, like at halftime we sort of joked the defense was the loser. The defense wasn't bad. Right. These were tough shots that were getting made. The fact that Bryce Cotton and CG43 were going bucket for bucket. Christian Doolittle kept him in the game when they started to nullify Bryce. But let's just start to really get down to the brass tacks of this game. We'll start with the Wildcats. They can leave this venue with their head held high. They had an up and down year. And in my opinion, they played a very, very good game. They played a fantastic basketball game. They just fell victim to some incredibly bad shot makers.
For real. And again, I want to give a shout out to Christian Doolittle, a career high for him. But out of the whole series so far, I have to say Christian Doolittle was the most unguardable. Yeah. And I say that because Chris Golding, when he gets in those moods, you just have to pray that he misses. When he gets locked in like that, you have to hope that he misses because he's just that good at what he does. But Christian Doolittle continued to just get to his spot. He's the strongest player in this series. Rise up, knock it down. Time and time again, he continued to keep him in it. And yeah, massive credit to John Riley and the Wildcats. The Wagstaff 3, what a moment that could have been in the grand scheme of things had it gone to overtime. So that was special. But yeah, there was more players that we'll talk about. It's always unfortunate to lose a game like that.
I'll take it a step further with Doolittle. It seems like he had that meeting with John Riley maybe the first half of the season because he came out here as a defender. He wasn't a great offensive player. John Riley's giving him the green light, and he's taking advantage of it because every time he shoots the ball now, you expect it to go in. You know, it's hard to see a guy that big take those shots, but when they fall in, you got to keep going to him.
And hindsight's a beautiful thing, but that play that they executed very well, Melbourne United, they ran that twice in the clutch this season. So Perth probably should have been ready for it, and you saw that you had to challenge it. You had to challenge it no matter what. A little bit on the arm there from what we could see. So it's a tough way to lose, but I know people are going to go back and bring up the missed goaltend. There's been missed goaltends all season. There's been missed travels. There's been missed foul calls. There was plenty of missed foul calls. You don't lose a game like that. It's obviously going to be magnified. It stings. I'd like to see eventually if we've got this technology to a point where if something that clear happens, maybe there's someone who's like, no, that's a goaltend. Let's just stop the game and count that. That's probably in the future of the sport, wholeheartedly around the rest of the world if we're going to have technology. But that's not the reason the Wildcats lost because they continue to throw punches and punches. And I sit here hoping and pleading that that wasn't Bryce Cotton's last NBL game.
And they would have beat any other team in this league, I think.
Easily.
They just ran into a very hot Ian Clark and Chris Golding, and the rest of the guys did their job as well.
And I got to eat my words a little bit because I made fun of Pete in the group chat because you sent out a tweet which I think was the softest thing of all time. He said, basketball's going to be the real winner tonight. I made fun of him. I got roasted. He wasn't too happy with me. And I'll tell you what, I look like a bit of a fool at the moment.
I wasn't going to bring it up, but now that you did, I mean, again, it was just special. And for the Wild, you need two teams to put on a performance like that. And the way the Wildcats started, I mean, credit Bryce Cotton. He started like the 5-time MVP does. Melbourne United did a great job in the third quarter of limiting him, but Doolittle, Ben Henschel made tough shots. So everybody stepped up when they had to. They went to the small ball. Dylan Windler was exceptional as well. And I really thought they had all the pieces to go all the way. I really did. And we saw that at plenty of moments throughout this series. As you said, they run into a hot Chris Golding and Ian Clark at the wrong time.
And you said, we spoke about this in Perth, how great that game was in the fourth quarter. It was one of the best games we've seen. In Perth come back being down that amount of points. But to come in here tonight and both teams perform the way they did, we were standing on the side like real fans. We were real fans, and everyone was standing up looking at this game. This is one of the best games I've ever seen.
And say bias all you want. We're all people that have links to Melbourne. Man, Perth, I was going for a game tie there, and I was hoping that they made a bucket to finish it, just to sum up this game.
I mean, the Jesse Wagstaff 3, we were sitting there like, this game deserves overtime. Absolutely, you want this game to go overtime because that's exactly what you never want to see it end on a free throw. Hindsight's a beautiful thing, but they've seen that play plenty of times.
Perth Wildcats, look, they've got the signature of Bryce Cotton is clearly their biggest issue that they're going to have to resolve right now. The fans, look, a lot of people at the start of this season were saying John Riley's not the man. I still firmly believe John Riley is the man for them. Unfortunately, tonight they ran into a buzzsaw named Chris Golding and Ian Clark. But we move on. They're going to have a great off-season, work out. They're the best managed team. They're the best franchise, in my opinion, in the NBL. They're going to work out anything that went wrong, and they're going to be back bigger and better next year.
And they got an owner who's a billionaire, bro.
Hey,
what about that, bro?
My man, owner's a billionaire. I had to buy him a drink the other night, man. We went out after the game. He's standing there. I had to buy him a drink. I said, hey, throw the card over, man.
You've got enough money. We know where
that is true. Sold my soul. Melbourne United switching over to them. They head to their second championship series. The taste of defeat against Tasmania, a 5-game series in their mouth. They're going to face either Illawarra or Southeast Melbourne. But you get the feeling, the way that they played in game one, the way that they played here, they couldn't be heading in. They get an extra day's rest with more confidence than what they will be now.
Again, I've been on this all season, defense wins championships. Now, it didn't in terms of the overall score, but you look at the third quarter in particular, the job they did to try and slow down.
Bad game as an example.
I know, but they had key moments when they had to come up with that. Offensive rebounds hurt them because they had to play small. They played Delhi at the 4, but it worked out on the other end. But big shout out here to Jack White. Mentioned it in the post game, but all the eyes are on Jack White for his free throws, for his mental struggles from the last game. We saw him in the warm-ups. We saw him in the first quarter. He looked ultra passive. He didn't want a bar of any sort of contact or free throw line. Finished with 15 points, including some big made threes.
Second half, I believe.
He knocked down a free throw, and you could just see the weight of the world lifted off his shoulders. And as someone who's
I'm not letting him off the hook with that free throw yet. That thing always hit the ceiling.
Again, but to get that off your back, as someone who's had to deal with those kind of struggles in a game, in a season, every pro's been there at some point when it just gets completely between your ears. That takes guts, and I know he's going to be proud of that, and he's going to be a really key piece for them if they want to win a champion.
You know what was special about Jack White? When he made the 3, he looked at the crowd and just said, you know, and that kept him going, man. The more he made shots, the bigger his confidence got. And I just think the next series, he'll be our guy to be reckoned with.
The thing is for United, like if you were to write the script for Melbourne, okay, what do we want to go in to the championship series with? Okay, we got a white-hot Chris Golding. We got a full of confidence Ian Clark. We got Delhi playing some great basketball. He's just the victim of the other guys playing better on his same team. And we got Jack White, monkey off his back seemingly. That's the script. And they just checked every box.
You know what I'd love to see? I'd love to see Ian Clark and Chris Golding play together, Pete. You know why? Because now you can't just focus on one guy shutting this guy down. You got to worry about that guy on the other end, and they're both full of confidence.
I kind of like what they're doing with a bit of a green light for both, though, where it could get a bit three-point heavy the way if you played them at the same time.
If they're knocking them down like this, you want it to be three-point heavy.
They're their 2 best scorers, make no mistake about it. And I'm sure had they lost this game, Dean Vickham would have gone back to that first quarter, 4.5 minutes to go, where he sat Chris until 6 minutes to go in the second. And Ian Clark Clark went off. And we also saw later on in the game, when you have them both on there, Perth was struggling to defend, and it allowed Delhi to get deep. It allowed Shea to get deep. So I'm sure Dean Vickman would have said, you know what, I probably sat him a little bit too long. But in the end, that's just two unbelievable shooters going at it. Chris Goulding was 6 of 6 at one stage, which if you're 6 of 6 at halftime,
not enough shots, brother.
Not enough shots. But it really wasn't. And again, credit Perth, they continue to battle hard, but sometimes you just run into a juggernaut of an offensive talent, and that's what Chris Goulding is, and that's what Ian Clark is. You don't win an NBA championship by accident.
Illawarra is still the benchmark for me. Southeast Melbourne, if they can come in and get a win on the road in Illawarra. Sandpit or the Snake Pit? What do we call it again?
Sandpit.
Sandpit. I always mix them all up.
The Snake Pit, my days.
Yeah.
Snake Pit.
They've switched it up on me, man. I can't keep up. There's too many pits going on, right? I want a barbecue pit. That's it. Yeah, get out of these other ones. I want a barbecue pit. But anyway, going into this final series, with the way that Melbourne performed tonight, who would you rather them face if you're a Melbourne United supporter?
I don't think it matters in the end because both teams can cause problems for them, which we've seen. The Phoenix have caused problems and the Hawks. So right now it's probably just about getting some rest and getting as healthy as possible for they'll play this weekend at some stage. So you're going to need some rest because they look like some tired guys.
Could you imagine a throwdown championship in Melbourne? Maybe Rod Laver Arena because there's that many people that'll be.
If that happens, there'll be ejections. There will be some sort of emotional ride. Either way, I think that that game's going to have a lot of emotion attached, whether it's the Hawks in Melbourne or the Phoenix in Melbourne.
Is there? Well, you're across more of the ins and outs of the NBL as a business than me and Lanard. Is there a chance that they've got contracts here? This couldn't be at Rod Laver if there was a throwdown final. They couldn't say Billie Eilish, get out of here. Yeah.
So when you ask a question to answer it in the same question, I think you know exactly what's going on there.
Okay, how long we got to fill? Hey, at the end of the day, fantastic job from you guys. I thought the broadcast was fantastic. Jack Everin has had an unbelievable
how good is he?
final series, and also Andrew Gaze pulling out one of the greatest individual commentary moments in yelling Spumoni. For those who haven't seen it from semi-pro, Andrew yelling Spumoni, the safe word for the big bear, when Bryce Cotton was going off. There was great moments on and off the court. Thank you for tuning in. Tomorrow night. Oh, this goes out, doesn't it? This goes out tomorrow.
Yeah, we've been doing 5 of them.
Well, they don't put me on the thumbnail, Pete, so maybe I just shouldn't even do these anymore. You hear that? Put me on the damn thumbnail. Thanks for tuning in to NBL Now.